Netanyahu is my hero. He is our hero. I pledge allegiance to Netanyahu. So the first question, how does the media serve as a link between citizens and the government? So the media serves as a link between citizens and the government by reporting on the concerns that the average citizen has on what their government does. We're also going to explain how the following have influenced how people acquired political information. So the first one is traditional press. It spread political ideas during the revolution, it prompted party viewpoints in early papers, and it made news cheaper and more available to the public. An example of this was newspapers. Some certain newspapers would cost a cent, and used new technology to spread info faster, and it created more national and unbiased reporting over time. B, investigative reporting. It exposed corruption, government action, and unfair business practices, like monopolies. And during the progressive era, journalists called muckrakers wrote stories about problems in society. And these journalists would expose monopolies and poor living conditions in cities. And the reporters helped citizens understand political and economic issues and pushed the government to pass new laws. Number 3, national political news. It gave citizens access to news from across the country and not just local events. So because of sources like the New York Times, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal, and USA Today, audiences from all over the nation were able to learn about political issues, elections, and government decisions happening outside of their own state, which helped create a more informed public. And D, radio. It made news faster, easier to understand, and available to more people. Radio broadcasts allowed people to hear news and speeches directly, which made people feel connected with national events. And television ended up becoming the main source of political news. So events like presidential debates, conventions, and hearings were shown on TV, which allowed everyday citizens to see candidates and government actions themselves. E, the internet. It made news available instantly and from a variety of sources. So online news made it easier to compare different viewpoints, but it also created competition to publish story quickly in a lickety split, right? But because of the fast-paced work ethic, some reporting became less careful, which sometimes led to mistakes. But nonetheless, the internet made political info easier. F, social media. It allowed people to get news directly from online platforms and share it quickly with others. So sites like Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms became major sources of news. Orgs and politicians use social media to reach audiences, and social media also allows everyday Johnnies to discuss politics and organize events and spread info. Moving on to the next portion. We're going to explain how politicians use the media to achieve their goals. So they run campaign ads on TV and websites. They hold press conferences where they take questions from the media, and they can kind of narrow down on certain things that they kind of want to talk about, I guess, to get that idea out there. How does the media shape politics? So the media influences how people think about politics by making targeted ads. So for example, since people that view NASCAR tend to vote more Republican, politicians can target these ads towards that demographic to expose them to a certain politician or candidate, I guess. Define filtering, agenda setting, / gatekeeping. So filtering, agenda setting, and gatekeeping is the process by which journalists and editors select or edit info to determine which stories are deemed newsworthy and allowed to pass to audiences. So if they think that a story is not newsworthy, they're not going to pass it. They're kind of trying to filter out the juicy stories, the whales, not the minnows. Define framing. So framing is the influence on public opinion caused by the way a story is presented or covered. So if I want to talk about Netanyahu and how villainous he is, right? People, and I have a large following, like 12 million subscribers on YouTube, right? All my 12 million subscribers are most likely going to see Netanyahu as a horrible person. Unlike someone that isn't subscribed to Nate Does Gov, they're going to see Netanyahu as a very good figure, right? They're going to see him as a hero. They're going to say, Netanyahu is my hero. He is our hero. I pledge allegiance to Netanyahu, right? So that's basically it's obviously exaggerated, right? But it is an example. So, what's the next one? Priming. So, priming is the influence on public opinion about the importance of a variety of issues that results from media picking which stories to report and cover and which to pass on. Horse race journalism is a political reporting style in which reporters focus more on polling data, public perception, and who is winning or losing, rather than the complex proposals, ideas, and policies. And the impact of this is, it increases distrust, and it could also potentially lower voter turnout and promote a bandwagon effect. For example, positive media coverage of a candidate can increase a standing of them in polls, where the opposite of that would be negative media coverage of a candidate would actually negatively impact their voter turnout. What does it mean that the media serves in a scorekeeper role, and how does that impact reporting of political news? So the scorekeeper role refers to a style of journalism that focuses on who's winning and losing rather than the complex ideas or the policies that a candidate or some campaign or whatever has to offer or talk about. How does that impact reporting of political news? So the media prioritizes the ups and downs of a campaign, and reporters give constant updates on which candidates are leading in the polls and which are falling behind, which creates a narrative that's centered on the contest itself and not the actual nitty-gritty details.